All right, Shalom. I'd like to start off by saying Kahalayim La Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Harikak Wadash Ma'amath. Double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone and my elder Herawan as well. Salutations to the Akim that are pushing this truth to sincerity and truth, and peace and blessing to the men, women, and children that believe in the name of Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. All right, on Kanaksan by Yashala from the Lion Center Yashala camp. This is a redo of a lesson that I put up yesterday. You know, I took a wise advice that I could do better, and chose to do that. So here goes. I'm gonna go a little bit more into what's going on in the article. And the article is speaking on. It says a coin depicting villain who persecuted Jews in the Hanukkah story is found. Artifact minted more than 1,850 years is among other pieces stolen from a sacred site in Israel. All right, and that villain that it's talking about is Antiochus Epiphanes, man. He was the wicked root that came out of the Seleucid dynasty that used to persecute the Jews, and was the one that Judas and Hasmoneans were going up against around the time of 168 to 164 BC. um, and he was wicked, man. He was really trying to push forth the Hellenization of our people, and because of so much persecution that he was putting on our people, um, a lot of our people went along with what he had to say versus what our customs say and Yahweh Shem Shai says for us to do. But you had the remnant that fought for the laws of our fathers and that didn't go conform um, to the heathen and worship Baal, um, that are or as well as we have today. Lord willing, this lesson to edify and serve this purpose for the hopeful elect, the ones that truly believe in the name of Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shai. All right, and it says, um, a coin depicting the ancient Greek king Antiochus IV has been found in Israel. The piece was among a trove of artifacts found in a man's home who has been charged with the looting of an archaeological site. However, this is the first time the coin has been seen in more than 1,850 years. The king is the villain in the Hanukkah story because he persecuted the Jews, right? And it's not a story, it's an actual fact. All right. It says the piece minted between 169 and 164 BC commemorates the ancient kings' victories in Egypt. However, Antiochus is more well known for persecuting Jews and defiling their temple in Jerusalem more than 1,850 years ago. Right, and I want to get into that a little bit. I'm probably going to read through First Maccabees chapter 1, um, maybe 2, but definitely get into some of 4. Um, Going into what happened back in those times and how severe the persecution was in those times. But we're headed for even worse times than those times there. Um, you know, so we had the time of Jacob's trouble, unfolding, and it's going to be a severe time, unlike a time that's ever been seen, unknown to man, or there will never be another time like this one that's to come. The final persecution of the Jews, man, of the Israelites, of the believers in Yahweh by Shem Shai, and amongst those, the ones that are of the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that don't believe in Yahweh by Shem Shai, they're going to get persecuted also. But the ones that are of the elect are going to get salvation and deliverance from what's to come in the midst of all that. Not saying that the elect are not going to go through any type of persecution, but within that, they're going to have the spirit to endure, all right, and receive the reward of deliverance, all right, and salvation. All right, it says, while the corn's discovery is exciting and happened just 2 weeks before the first day of Hanukkah, officials are concerned about the man who broke the law, who looted several other coins and ancient artifacts from a protected area in Kiryat Simona. All right, so so you had this looter or this tomb raider um, going around looting things and happened to run across this coin, um, proving which some people want to call like a fairy tale or whatever. Um, but Yahweh Shem Shai's manifestation of the children of Israel is coming more and more prominent each day that we go forth as these prophecies come to pass as he send the men of the Lord out there to speak in sincerity and truth. All right, it says, Israel Antiquities Authority, which raided the man's home, said the removal of such items could potentially harm crucial research being conducted at the site and destroy any information that has yet to be uncovered. Right. So the separation from what they're finding on the site to what this guy has, if anything happens in the midst of transporting of these things, it could destroy key evidence on the findings that they've already found and have yet to find. All right, so they need every little piece that they can to put all the pieces together, but the men of the Lord don't need all that. This is for carnal purposes only. The Spirit is going to bear witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High, and that's going to be the only evidence that's being needed. All right, to prove what's already been spoken. What they're trying to choke up out of us. Anytime somebody comes forth and says it, they try to choke the life right up out of us. All right. It says Hanukkah is an 8-day Jewish Israelite celebration that begins on December 18th and ends on the evening of December 26th. All right. If I'm not mistaken, let me find out. I think we're going to do it as a camp, part of it tomorrow. But not sure of the actual dates that the apostles had set forth. Let me see if I can find it real quick. All right. Slakia. Bear with me one sec. All right. Yeah, it says Hanukkah is Thursday, November 17th evening to Friday, November 25th evening. Slakia, 1 second. All right. But that's just information that I got from Apostle Ramlad's page anyway. But they have it being December 18th and ends on December 26th. But we don't go according to Khazars. All right. This is the article says the holiday honors the rededication during the 2nd century BC of the Second Temple in Jerusalem, as the first was destroyed by Antiochus, who replaced it with an altar praying to Greek gods. Antiochus or Antiochus captured Jerusalem in 167 BC and desecrated the temple by sacrificing a pig on the altar to Zeus, man. So he really went in there, did a number. He didn't burn it down, but he desecrated it and defiled it for damn sure. But he did that just by stepping foot in there. He didn't have to sacrifice anything. It was defiled and desecrated when he walked his ass in there. As Hanukkah commemorates the Maccabean or Hasmonean victories over the king's forces in 167. All right. So yeah, you had Mattathias. We're gonna get into all that when I start reading in the book of Maccabees. It says the Jewish army was led by Mattathias. The Israelites were led by Mattathias Maccabees. His last name was Hasmon, not Maccabees. Maccabee means hammer. That was the nickname for Judas. And his son Judas, who were the first Jews to defend their religious beliefs rather than their lives. The Maccabean revolt led to the capture of Jerusalem, the reestablishment of of Israelite worship in the temple, and the Hasmonean dynasty that ruled Judea until 67 BC. All right, it says the coin, however, is a reminder of the dark time before the Maccabean victory over their Greek oppressors. All right, so these individuals are ruling over us today, and in the same fashion, man. In the same fashion, and they rule over us with the sword, man. And what was Esau's um blessing? The blessing was to gain the fatness of the earth, and it was going to be gained through the sword, and that's exactly what they've done. And you can go into that to Revelation chapter 6. All right, it says retired Israel Antiquities Authority coin researcher Danny Sheon told the Jerusalem Post Antiochus or Antiochus, king of the Seleucid kingdom, was officially named Epiphanes to the face, which means to the face of God. But behind his back, his subjects called him Ipmanes, the crazy Antiochus. So they were picking at him and shit, calling him crazy when he was trying to call himself the face of God. All right, it says the raid was conducted Tuesday while the suspect told the Israel Antiquities Authority he was only looking for geological finds. Officials found arrowheads, rings, makeup tools, buckets, lead objects, buttons, and more hiding in his home. Near Desteffield, the inspector of the robbery prevention unit at the Israel Antiquity Authority in the northern region, said, although the find is beautiful and the timing of its discovery before Hanukkah is exciting, we must not forget that the suspect broke the law. Many looted items were found in his house. The suspect claimed to be a geology enthusiast looking for quartz crystals and metals, but on the way also collected coins and ancient artifacts. All right, so and one of those coins happened to be the the one of those coins happened to be the coin with the face of Antiochus on it, and he put hell on our people, man. He put purity hell on our people, like how Esau's doing to this day, man, putting hell on our people. And you got some of our people helping this devil put hell on us, man. They want to go after the biddy. They want to be like their father, the devil. That's the authority who they want to be under. All right. So let me go into some scriptures a little bit. There's a little bit more in the article. I might go into it, but right now, let's go into Antiochus a little bit. Hold on. All right. All right. So a little bit about matter of fact, let's go to the backlog of it. Let's start with where did this come from? And first I want to get all right. Let's get Revelations real quick. Revelation chapter 13. And kind of pinpoint where we're at today. All right. I said, all right, this is Revelation 13 and 1. It says, and I stood upon the sea, the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns upon his head, his horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the names of blasphemy. All right. So this is going into where all Slakia. All right. So what Revelations 13 is going into the rise of the Roman Empire, transitioning from um into what we see today with NATO, European Union, and America. All right, so the main focus I want to get on is where the beginning of it. All right, it says, verse 1 again. It says, "And I stood on the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his head named the names of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear." Right. So, all right. So it was like unto the leopard, and the feet was like unto a bear. All right. So that leopard represents Alexander. That's the point I wanted to go into. All right. It represents the Greeks. All right. Which spoken of in the book of Daniel. It says, and the feet, like the feet, it says, and his feet were as the feet of a bear. And that's to represent the end of it, and which is going to ultimately is Russia. All right. The Russia is that bear that's going to take down this infrastructure. All right. It says, and the mouth was the mouth of a lion. All right. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So all these are factions of Europe. That lion represents Britain. All right. And that dragon is going into the Roman Empire and ultimately the EU. All right. So now going into that leopard, I want to go back to First Maccabees chapter 1. And it says, and it happened after that, after Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. All right. So Philip Macedon, his son was Alexander, who his mother told him that he wasn't the son of Philip, he was a son of Zeus and all kind of crazy hellacious shit. But you know, it is what it is. They demons. That's what they do. Verse 2, it said, made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth, and went through the ends of the earth and took many spoils of many nations, and so much the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. So, if, he went through conquering damn near the whole known world at that time. And he had everybody shook, just like how America and Esau has everybody shook today. That's why if you read further down in Revelation 13, it says, who can make war with the beast? And that's going to be the one that's equipped, Russia. But the main focus is on talking about where this Antiochus IV came from, the one that was persecuting us in 168 to 164 BC. All right. It says, verse 4, and it says that he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations, and kings were become tributaries unto him. After these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. Right? So boom. So he parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. All right, Shalaki, let me read First Maccabees 1:6 again. It says, wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. All right, so right before he died, he was trying to set his kingdom up, all right, to be dispersed. All right, so when that disbursement happened, you had something that was created from that, branched off from that later on, called the Diadochi. All right, when you had you're right. So going forward, this is First Maccabees 1:7. It says, so Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, and his servants bare rule, every one in his place. After his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied upon the earth, man. So these individuals were multiplying evils upon the earth because they the wicked. All right. This is Proverbs chapter 29, verse 16. It says, when the wicked are multiplied, transgression increases, but the righteous shall see their fall. Right, and that's what we're waiting on. As we see this wickedness being multiplied throughout the four corners of the earth by the wicked, these other nations and 2/3 of our nations, right? We wait to see their downfall of this wicked ass system that's set up. That's just set up all on wickedness and folly, man. All right. All right. First Maccabees 1-10. It says 1-9 again. It says, after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them. Many years and evils were multiplied in the earth, and there came out of them a wicked root. Antiochus, or Antiochus, surname Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been in hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 130th and 7th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. All right. So Antiochus the fourth, right? That wicked root. All right. This is Antiochus the fourth. It says was a Greek Hellenistic king. All right. Who ruled the Seleucid Empire from 175 BC until his death in 164. He was the son of King Antiochus III the Great, originally named Martharides. He was assumed the name Antiochus after he ascended the throne. Notable events during Antiochus' reign include his near conquest of Ptolemy, Egypt, his persecution of the Jews of Judea and Samaria, and the rebellion of the Jewish Maccabees. All right, so that's what we're going to get into. All right, so that's a Greek Hellenist, man, and he was really, adamant about Hellenizing our people, man. Getting our people to, go conform to their customs and their ways. All right. So going back to First Maccabees 1-10, it says, and there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surname Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been in hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 130th and 7th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, let us go make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us, for since we departed from them, we have had much sorrows. And right, and you've always had that amongst our people, the wicked amongst them that didn't care. They're gonna follow after the ways of the heathen. If that means more security from them, then or if that means if there's more security, what I'm saying, they can live according to the lifestyle how they want to live. Yeah, they're gonna go according to the heathens, man. This is Jeremiah chapter 5, verse 26. It says, for among my people are found wicked men. They lay wait as he that setteth snares. They set a trap. They catch men. And as we go further in this, in the book of Maccabees, we're going to see how, some of the 2/3 of that at that time were trying to set us up for, to get overtaken by the Greeks, man. All right. So First Maccabees 1-11, it says, and in those days there went out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, let us go make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us, for since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. Right, there's no faith in that. As soon as you go through a struggle, you're ready to jump ship and forget about the Lord. You know, yeah. That's just 2/3 of our people. They're in that mindset, and you see them in that mindset today, man. They don't have any faith. If they can't see it right now in front of their face, they're not going to believe in it. Verse 12, it says, "So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so froward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathen," man. So they looking for, confirmation that, hey, we could be like you. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen. That's when they had like the gym and had our people walk around each other naked and shit like that, like how they be doing and shit. And made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the holy covenant and joined themselves to the heathen and were sold to mischief, man. Right? Like that's how you see today. And they did physically like not no longer become circumcised, but that's a mental thing, man, a spiritual thing. Circumcision of the heart, because they forsook the holy covenant and forsook the laws of Yahweh by Shem Yahushai to cleave to making covenant with and join themselves unto the heathen. All right. Verse 16, it says, "Now, when the kingdom was established before Antiochus or Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt that he might have dominion over the two realms," right? Because he went down to Egypt against Ptolemy, and if I'm not mistaken, he was going back down to Egypt, and somebody gave him word that there's a rebellion on the Jews. That's when he turned back around, all right, and came into us to persecute us. If I'm not mistaken, I think this goes into it. All right. It says, "Wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen, and a great navy, and made war with Ptolemy, king of Egypt. But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. Thus they got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. And after that, Antiochus or Antiochus had smitten Egypt. He returned again in the 143rd year, and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude." All right, so that's when he came from Egypt, coming to persecute us, and entered proudly into the sanctuary, and took away the golden altar and candlesticks of life, all right, the menorah, and all the vessels thereof, and the table of the shewbread, and the pouring vessels, and the vials, and the censers of gold, and the veil, and the crown, and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. So he's just stealing all of our stuff out of the temple, man. Raiding the temple, but he didn't burn it down like it got burnt down in 70 AD. He took also the silver and the gold and the precious vessels. Also he took the hidden treasures which he found. When he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having a great massacre, and spoken very proudly. Right, he was boasting in his victories. All right, it said, "Therefore there was a great mourning in Israel in every place where they were." All right, so I guess, all right, so he went to Egypt, conquered Egypt, came back through, went into Jerusalem, took many spoils of there. All right. So now he's back in his land, and he's, speaking proudly while we're in mourning. It says, verse 26, it says, "So that the princes and the elders mourned, the virgins and the young men were made feeble, and the beauty of women was changed." All right. "Every bridegroom took up lamentation, and she that sat in the marriage chamber was in heaviness." Everybody was in mourning, man. Like, how can you get married? How can you do anything like that? Like, but this today, Jake don't care about no temple. Jake ain't mourning at the state that our people are in. Jake applaud to see, they watch it on TV if they can get entertained. Jake don't care about the state of our people. All right. It says, verse 28, it says, "The land also was moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion. Right? This is what the devil came in to do, man. And after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Judea, who came into Jerusalem with a great multitude. All right. This is when shit get heavy. And spake peaceful words unto them, but all was deceit. Right. Cause what? His words were smoother than butter, but war was at his heart. Let me get that real quick. See if I can find it real quick. Of course, my computer wants to act slow. All right. This is Psalms. Slacking. All right, Psalms chapter 55. Bear with me, my computer's running real slow. Psalms chapter 55, verse 21. It says, the word of his mouth. Wait, hold on. Let's start at verse 20. It says, he hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. Right. We ain't want to have nothing to do with that. He came and brought the trouble to us. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords, man. So going back to First Maccabees 1:30, it says, and spake peaceful. That's when Antiochus or Antiochus sent the multitude to Jerusalem to collect tributaries. All right. It says peaceful words unto them, but all was deceit. For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon a city and smote it very sore and destroyed much people of Israel. Right. So when they paid the tributes to him, they still just, you know what I'm saying? Just, we were at peace with him. And that's the violence and the hatred that this devil has towards us, man. And really, it's showing the anger of the Lord, how angry the Lord is with us, man. Verse 31, it says, and when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire and pulled down the houses and the walls thereof on every side. But the women and children took their captive and possessed the cattle. Then built they the city of David with a great and strong wall and with mighty towers, and made it strong for them. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein. They stored it so with armor and victuals, and when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there so they could become a sore snare. For it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary and the evil adversary to Israel. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it, man. This is what this is the persecution. This is why they call this devil a villain, man. All right. It says, insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them, whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers, and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her. All right. So we've been getting ran out of our land because of our transgressions. The Lord sent his hammer, his minion, his demon on us, Esau, and it makes shit happen. You know what they say, won't he do it? Yeah, you want to correct Israel, he gonna send Esau, he gonna send these other nations, he gonna send somebody to put that whooping stick on us. But he's neither a respecter of persons, because the Lord is not only gonna bring judgment on us, but he's going to bring judgment on these other nations, man. All right. It says, verse 39, it says, her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into reproach, her honor into contempt. Right, man. Because the Lord had this devil just strip everything away from us, man, put us in a state of mourning. But you take, our people don't want these, responsibilities of being an Israelite. They don't care. They rather be called American, Negro, Black, African. They'd rather be called these bywords and proverbs and be an astonishment to the nation, and then claiming what's rightfully theirs. Verse 40, it says, and has been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning, man. So how much glorified we were, it turned into dishonor and increased. That's how much our dishonor increased, man, through this devil's persecution. It says, moreover, King Antiochus wrote to the whole kingdom that all should be one people. That was his agenda in the first place. NWO, New World Order. That's the spirit that's on these devils today, man. That's ultimately going to bring in the MOTB, which is the C-hip that they're trying to implant in everybody, man. For all to be one people. Verse 42, and everyone should leave his laws, so all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. And 2/3 of our people are in agreement with this. So they made that covenant. They made a covenant with death, and with lies, they are in the agreements, man. It says, verse 43, yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. And you're seeing that today, man. You're seeing that today. All right. Verse 44, it says, and the king had sent letters by messenger unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land. Right. And you have it today with 2/3 of our people will fight for the laws of Esau, but won't fight for the laws of Yahweh by Shem Yahushai. And forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, that they should profane the Sabbath days and the festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people, man. It says, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts, man. That they should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanliness and profanation, man. All right, it says, to the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinance. All right, and that's how you have our people walking to this day right now. All right, this is First Maccabees chapter 2, verse 1. It says, in those days arose Mattathias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Jorib, from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modin. And he had 5 sons, Joanna called Cabis, Simeon called Thasis, all right, Judas, who was called Maccabees, Eleazar called Avaron, Jonathan, whose surname was Appas. All right, so to let you know, their father Mattathias' last name wasn't Maccabees, and the elder did a lesson explaining that also. All right, it says, and when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem, he said, woe is me, wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people and of the holy city, and to dwell there, when it was delivered unto the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers, man. All right, so this didn't sit well with, seeing the state of our people don't sit well with true men of the Lord. All right, because they bear that same spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushai of mourning, of wanting to correct and cleanse our people, and they're cleansed through the word of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. All right, and there's a reward for them that mourn at these things. This is Ezekiel chapter 9, verse 4. It says, "And the Lord said unto him, Go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof." Right, we're sighing and crying for all the abominations done in the midst of Israel, man. And Israel scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. And I guarantee you, everywhere you find Israel, you're going to find some abominations going on. All right. So the Lord is setting a mark upon the foreheads, um, of the ones that sigh and cry, but all for the abominations. And that mark is the thawa, exemption from judgment. All right. So exemption from judgment. So that's what you want. You have these sayings that like YOLO, you only live once, and when in Rome, do what the Romans do. But nah, man, we're supposed to stick to our covenants that was given unto us by Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. That's one of the main key points in Hanukkah, man. The rededication of the temple, a place for us to worship, an altar. All right, so we can give a righteous sacrifice. And we give a righteous sacrifice today by presenting our bodies as living sacrifice, wholly acceptable to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. All right. This is 1 Maccabees chapter 2, verse 8. It says, "Her temple is become as a man without glory." Right. And you see that today. Or it says, verse 9, it says, "Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets. Her young men with the sword of the enemy. What nation hath not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils?" What nation? There's not a nation on this earth that has not had their hand in the persecution and the destruction of the children of Israel. So Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai has a judgment in place for all these nations that had laid a hand on the apple of his eye. Verse 12, and it says, "And behold, her sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it. To what end, therefore, shall we live any longer?" Like Matthew was like, yo, we might as well not even live anymore, man. He rather die than to see his people living like that. But our people don't care. They want to run around and act foolish. It said, then Mattathias, verse 14, it said, "Then Mattathias and his sons rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourn very sore. And the men, while the king's officers, such had compelled the people to revolt, came into the city of Modin to make them sacrifice. And when many of Israel came unto them, Mattathias also and his sons came together. Then answered the king's officer and said to Mattathias on this wise, Thou art a ruler and an honorable and great man in this city, and strengthened with sons and brethren." Right, here go the bullshit. This is when Esau think he can smooth talk anybody to get them to conform to his ways, and if they don't, he'll try to use fear. But true men of the Lord only fear Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shai. Verse 18, it says, "Now therefore come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen do have done, yea, the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem. So shalt thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards." All right, but so they're trying to convince Mattathias to convince his sons to go after the ordinance of the heathen, to become Hellenized. All right. But Mattathias had this to say. It says, "Then Mattathias answered and spoke with a loud voice, Though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him, and fall away every one from the religion of their fathers, and give his consent to his commandments, yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers." And you see that today by the men of the Lord going out there on the highways and byways, speaking against this deceitful nation and this setup, this system that's systematically set up to keep us in bondage, man. It's not designed to give us any sorts of freedom. And the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai made it that way. Because if he didn't, man, Jake would have took this America over and would have been buck wild, man. Every place in America would have looked like out east, and there'd be a crab boil on every corner, and a liquor. You know what I'm saying? That it like Jake surpassed the heathen with the wickedness. So the Lord had to put a bounds that we couldn't surpass even in our captivity, man. Also with these other nations, because if he didn't, they would have totally consumed us. All right, it says, verse 21, it says, Yahweh forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinances. We will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion, either on the right hand or the left. So it don't matter what angle you come at. We're not swaying away from the path at all. Verse 23, it says, Now when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all this to sacrifice on the altar, which was at Modin, according to the king's commandments. Which thing when Mattathias saw, he was inflamed with zeal, and his reins trembled, neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment. Wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar, made him the sacrifice. You ain't gonna sacrifice no some swine's flesh on here. Your blood gonna be sacrificed on here, man. And that's how zealous that he was, man, for the law of Yahweh by Shem Yahushai, man. And that's how we have to be. We have to strive for truth until death, and the Lord shall fight for us. Verse 25, it says, Also the king's commissioner who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at that time, and the altar he pulled down. Thus he zealously for the law of Yahweh, like as Phinehas did unto Zumbri, the son of Shalom. And Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, Whosoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me. So he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city. And those mountains were, I think it's over by the valley of Qumran. Those are areas where people want to get away from the bullshit. The elder did a lesson on that too. That was a wonderful lesson showing where the areas, if I'm not mistaken, but or it might have been the hills of Judea where they fled, but it was somewhere that they fled to get away from everything outside the city, and they sought refuge there, and compiled together to conform a revolt, against the heathen, man. And that's what we're doing to this day, man. Our mind is coming out of this place and being focused on Yahweh by Shem Yahushai. And we're trying to be the ones to help rededicate the new temple, the third temple, which is New Jerusalem. All right. So let me go down to First Maccabees chapter 4, verse 36. It says, So now you have, I'm jumping around a little bit. So now you have the part where Judas Maccabees tries to go back to the temple. He hadn't been there in a while. They hadn't been there in a while, and they hadn't known how bad the temple was after they fled. Okay. So this is going into what I think is the root of Hanukkah. All right. The dedication of the temple. All right, this is First Maccabees 4 and 36. It said, Then said Judas and his brethren, Behold, our enemies are discomforted. Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary. All right. Upon this, all the hosts assembled themselves together and went up into the Mount Zion. And they saw the sanctuary desolate, and the altars profane, and the gates burnt up, and the shrubs growing in the courts as in a forest, or in one of the mountains. Yea, the priest's chambers pulled down. So they saw it totally destroyed, man. And they rent their clothes and made great lamentations and cast ashes upon their heads, and fell down flat to the ground upon their faces, and blew an alarm with the trumpets and cried towards heaven. Right, and that's what we're doing now, because we see our people in a desolate, dormant state of mind. You know what I'm saying? Not being in some way, shape, or form, being some way, shape, or fashion, being conformed to this world, man. And no matter how much you try to pull them out of it, they don't want to leave. No matter how much you blow the alarm, the trumpet, to them it's giving an uncertain sound. So they're not trying to prepare themselves for the battle. All right, but we're supposed to be in a state of a mourning, waiting on our King Yahweh Shai to return and give us deliverance, man. Verse 41, then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress until he cleansed the sanctuary. All right. So he chose priests of blameless conversation, such as had pleasure in the law, who cleanse the sanctuary and bear out the defiled stones unto a unclean place. And when they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which was profaned, they thought it best to pull it down, lest it should be a reproach to them, because the heathen have defiled it. Wherefore they pulled it down. Right. So if you have anything that's defiled on you, you gotta, you know what I'm saying? The Lord has to purge it out of you. All right. Using that in the spiritual sense. But they thought it better, like it had already be defiled, for them to build a new one, a new altar that had not been defiled by the heathen. All right. It says, and lay up stones in the mountains of the temple and in a convenient place until there should be a prophet to show what should be done with them. Then they took whole stones according to the law and built a new altar according to the former, and made up the sanctuary and the things that were therein, the temple, and hollowed the courts. And they made also new holy vessels, and unto the temple they brought the candlestick, the menorah, and the altar of burnt offerings and of incense and the table. All right. So now with the menorah, and the elder did a lesson on the menorah also, and dealing with Hanukkah, and with the 7 churches of Asia Minor, the 7 candlesticks in the representation of the menorah, and Yahweh Shai being in the middle, and you use the middle candlestick to light the rest that are around it. And so we're in the spirit of Hanukkah year round, dedicating to the lights. This time of year is the traditional time of the rededication of the temple, but we always be in that spirit, bearing that light of Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shai, holding that candlestick, until the day star arrives. All right, verse 50 says, and upon the altar they burnt incense, and the lamps that were upon the candlesticks they lighted, that they might give light in the temple. Right. So the men of the Lord are giving light in the temple now. That light is given unto them by Yahweh Shai, man. It's beautiful. Furthermore, they set the loaves upon the table and spread out the veils and finished all the works which they had begun to make. Now on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is called Cashlu, in the 148th year, they rose up betimes in the morning and offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings which they had made. All right. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it. Even in that was it dedicated with songs and citherns and harps and cymbals. Then all the people fell upon their faces, worship and praising Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shai, power of heaven, who had given them good success. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days, and offered burnt offerings with gladness, and sacrificed the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. And we're waiting on that deliverance right now. All right. We're waiting on that deliverance right now, from Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shai. So, that's pretty much the story, the dedication of the lights of Hanukkah, when Antiochus desecrated the temple and defiled the altar, and which started a revolt from the Hasmons to reestablish and rededicate the temple, man. All right. In the name of Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shai. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying and served its purpose. With that, I'd like to say, Ka Halayim La Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shai, by Shem Harakah Kwadash Ma'amah. Double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone and my elder Herawan as well. Salutations to the Archon that are pushing the truth to sincerity and truth. And peace and blessings to the men, women, and children that believe in the name of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Shalom.